Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Kuntz. I am the principal instructional designer at Penn State University's Teaching and Learning with Technology. And today we're going to be talking about immersive engagement, exploring spatial I/O in higher education. As you can tell by my voice, I'm a little bit under the weather. So if I pause, it's on purpose and it's to take some tea in so that way you don't hear me coughing away. And so the reason for this and today is Penn State is one university geographically dispersed. We have campuses throughout the state, approximately 28, including University Park, which is in the middle, as well as the online unit, which is called World Campus. And so teaching and learning with technology focuses on traditional age students that are in person, but we do a lot with hybrid courses as well as remote synchronous courses, particularly from the mid like 2014 and onward. And so I actually presented on experiential virtual spaces last year, and I said spatial I/O is coming because it was in beta at the time. And so we used other products called Art Steps, which is still in existence, Mozilla Hubs, which has now decided to sunset, just like Google Jamboard, if you've heard of that whiteboarding tool. Some tools that are free come and go. And I think that's really important in the spaces to be nimble. And so thankfully, spatial I/O seems very open to have it be free. And so that's why we're going to focus it on today and talk about new use cases compared to last year. And so what is an experimental virtual space? It's a dynamic virtual environment where you could have an avatar as pictured here, the back of it. Spatial I/O allows to have a little video feed. So if you wanted to meet there instead of Zoom, you could and actually have true video in addition to the avatar. And it also uses what's called spatial sound. So if there's someone else in this picture and I would get closer to them, it would be like I was walking closer to them physically in the room. So if someone is here and someone's like 30 feet away, you wouldn't be able to hear their conversation. But if you get closer, maybe like 10 feet away, you'd start to hear what they're talking about. And then free movement around the space. So for here, this example has multiple rooms, and we'll actually explore some of these all together. If you wanted to jump in, you can, but if not, I will also share my screen. And so the goal is to have the class feel like they're close together, even when they're far apart. And some of these spaces have actually been used in partnership with in-person classes as well. So these have been used for remote synchronous, remote asynchronous courses where they never truly meet, but have the option now to, and more. And so we'll go over those a little bit more after we go over the tool. And so what are some of the affordances of the space? It allows to have deeper connection and improve relationships with the teacher and peers. It also allows the power of choice for students to engage with elements of the space. So that example that was there had videos, so students could pop in, see if there's another student there, talk to that person with video or text chat, just like Zoom, but also go up and play things and touch things as well. And then a literature review found that it actually had impact on learning performance, perceptions of student impact and satisfaction, and collaboration. And so some of the constraints, as I indicated, is that ever-evolving spaces, given the new nature of tools. It does have a larger learning curve than Zoom or your learning management system. And so making sure that you have kind of a stepped approach for students. If they're going to be creating in a space, maybe have them just go in and lurk and interact and then work up to creating their own. In addition, while this is a free tool, you never know. And so there might be times where it would move to paid, but there is no indication at this time. And two, the one that is spatial I/O is really focused on video games and online experiences like concerts and things like that. So there's not that much for education. So there's a lack of education community for that. And then lastly is a lack of local infrastructure. So Penn State has what's called Penn State supported tools where you could call the help desk and do all that. Then we have another set called Penn State approved. So any free tool, you can't just use it. You have to put it in through this process called courseware. And so they check it for accessibility. They check it for student data, making sure that that's safe, and security. And so while it's approved for use, there's not necessarily help. And so we try to make sure that there's enough guides that faculty can help students, especially if there's evening questions or weekend questions. And so with that, we are actually going to explore one of the aspects right now. So let me stop share. And for those of you who want to follow along, what we're going to be going to is one of the art examples, which we'll cover. And so you could actually join Spatial. You have to create an account. So if you click on that link, you would have to use your Gmail to connect or something of that nature. So if you don't want to do that and you just want to watch, totally understandable. And so this will be in the recording as well. And so we have somebody, so sometimes it does work that you don't have to log in. So we have 3. And so this is me. You could see when other people pop in, they go here, they have like a generic avatar. You could always change it up later. And so for this space, we could wander. And I should have myself muted, so you shouldn't hear me through the platform. It should only be through Zoom. And so for this example, students were given a number and say, hey, you have to upload your artwork. And we had a student worker pre-populate everything. So if I was student number 40 who dropped the class, I would have to go here, and all you would have to do is press this upload art button, and it would be take you to this part. And if you said, hey, where's my image? All you would have to do is click upload. And so similar to attaching an image to a Canvas or your learning management system or an email, you would just put it here, and then it would auto-populate in this area. So it kind of moved the boundary of students for that. And we'll get to creating spaces at the end of the session, but I just wanted to show you that you could use the keyboard to kind of look right. If I press the left arrow, I look left. If I move forward, the front arrow, you have that, and back, you have this. The other part is just like in chat, if I wanted to type, I can say, hello, everyone, and it shows my name there. If you're like, uh-oh, what do I do? The 3 buttons give you a quick little change of ways of advanced features, including turning the camera off. So I'm not going to do that because I'm in Zoom, but you could actually have your camera point up here. You could see what the people are. And so again, I'm just going to go up to this individual. They're doing the dance. So they're advanced more so. And then 2, because I'm logged in, you could see my avatar is here. If I press my edit avatar, you could do one of these predetermined ones, or you could edit your own. And so what the edit feature does is it has more predetermined ones. And so typically we gear towards that. It also could take it from a photo and create it. And then you could also manually do each element for this. And so you could change out your outfits, your hairstyle, gender, and much more. So I'm going to press exit for now. And then I wanted to also tell you one thing. If you've ever saw the movie Ready Player One, in addition, they have it. You could create avatars that are 3D like this that go over into different platforms called Ready Player Me. And so you could connect it that way. So that's just advanced features. Typically students use one of the predetermined ones, or they kind of pick out what's good for them. And 2, knowing that students might not know what to do and how to do it, we provided some steps over here. And the reason why I wanted to demo this one, after we go through some of the examples, and you can, all these spaces will be available afterwards for you to explore, is this one, we have a portal because this is just one lesson. And so if you go to the portal, you could travel to the hub of all the art spaces. And so it makes you sit on this little mat because sometimes this was used for optional office hours where they would have a handful of students here and the faculty member could go and present. So if you're sitting, if you just press the up arrow, then you could move and then you could choose. These are the 6 assignments that you could teleport to. And so we were in this first one, and that's the example that we'll show later on, but you could go through each of these. So that is spatial from the student perspective. Again, we'll go over how to create it more towards the end of this session after we go over some of the ways it has been used in higher education. So at this point, I'm going to pause just to see if there's any questions as far as exploring these spaces that already exist. No? Okay, so I'm still going to be here, but it's going to be in the background. So I'm going to go back to sharing my slide deck. So what are some ways that it has been used? One way that it has been different is 3 art faculty have decided to wanted to experiment with a 3D virtual space to facilitate exploration and collaboration in their online asynchronous art courses. And so we're going to go through those 3 as well as one additional one, because even though it's in the subject of art, it's a little bit different. So the first one was Art 1. You don't have to know the context of the art class, but this one, students create their own museum. And so they do this over multiple weeks. They could have it be a passion of whatever they're into. And so it could be the beach, it could be hiking, it could be something in pop culture. And so they had to create their museum, and they actually had to create it from scratch. So they had to create the space, they had to there's templates that are there. And so most of them picked templates that had that upload art aspect, but they could add more if they needed to. And then they had to visit each museum and spatial, but then they had to give peer feedback to one, and they decided to keep that peer feedback in the Canvas. And so this is the discussion board directions. But again, this was after they created the space. So they had to review fellow classmates of museums and write one of the written feedback. And so this was the screenshot of the one that they did. And so as far as student reflections for this example, was that they really enjoyed this interactive platform, giving a chance to create their own museum and opening a realm of possibilities to create something digital. It could help students exploring setting up various museums to their fullest of their creativities. And so I'll be posting all of the slides in the Discord later on. But if you want it for your records, this is the gallery, which is different than the earlier one. And so the next one is the one that we just visited. And so this was in an Art 10. It was an iterative creation process where students had to come up with like 3 artwork ideas and their statement, and then put that in that space. So once it uploads, it changes the frame to whatever the picture is. So that's why you'll see some that are more rectangle versus square. And then for peer feedback, instead of that learning management system and a discussion board, they had to add a little sticky note to a student pieces of artwork in that kind of designated area. So the first one, students did all the creation. For this one, we had a student worker to designate the numbers, the 4 spots, And then it was the students who had to upload in their designated area and then do a sticky note someplace else. And so this is just some of the examples that they had as far as screenshots for feedback. And so they always said hi and who they were doing it to. So this is Lily was number 36, and it was Paola who was giving feedback, who was number 6. And so that way they could say, oh, who's this person giving me feedback? What is their artwork? What is their interest? And they could make connections that way. Because again, these students never met in real time. The one person before, I always said that they usually say, oh, is that the age? And so no, it's not the age. It's their designated writing area. And so for this example, I enjoyed looking at my classmates' artwork and reading about their thought process. They are so creative. I learned about different interpretations of the assignment prompt and also about other types of toys, such as a lizard made of beads. I really enjoyed this assignment. I sewed everything by hand, which is something I haven't done in a long time. The process was time consuming, but I wanted to get everything right. I learned that I really like working with my hands to create a tangible piece. So for Art 10, it's artwork that's not paintings, that it's like something hands-on, but giving them the time and space to whatever that is. And so that is the gallery that we explored together. But if you want to check it out or came a little bit late, this is the link. And then the last one for art, this is Art 20, kind of similar to the previous example. So we're not going to go into much detail. This one, there was no student worker. It was the faculty member who created each designated space for the students. And then they created their own portal. They're very tech savvy. And so they wanted a little bit more artistic elements. So that's why you have kind of the pink hollow buttons. And so this faculty member, which I believe is linked into her like portal that's there, she has a D&D group that is done for the World Campus, which is for adult learners. And so she actually created a space for them to get together and meet virtually in there as well. And so if you're interested in that shared space, we have that. And so now that you've had some time to kind of either go into the space or watch me demo it, as well as these 3 examples for art, I wanted to have a chat discussion. And just remember that in the recording, it is not anything that's in the chat won't be in the recording, so you won't have any names and you're anonymous. So what do you see as the added benefits of placing student work in these style paint spaces? And Catherine, I got your question. So I'll wait till we talk about this next. So less student anxiety. It's accountable, feels like real world experiences and authentic. Yeah. And so like, because of these examples with it being art, typically they would go to maybe an art museum or something like that. But some of the art classes are in rural Pennsylvania. Sometimes this is at a particular campus too. And some campuses are maybe like 2 hours away from the closest art museum, and it's even something like a small one. So it gives that kind of experience of what is an art gallery and what does it look like. Great, thank you all. And so, yes, to share with pride in their work too. And so people have already linked to their galleries, especially when they created the whole gallery themselves. Wonderful. And so there was 2 questions that came in. So one from anonymous one was that how do you deal with ensuring accessibility for all students? And so the answer is it depends. And so This is a Penn State approved tool. So any tool that's free has to go through called the courseware process, which takes a lengthy amount of time because it goes through security, risk analysis. It goes actually through Penn State lawyers to be like, is there anything that could like the terms of service, because anything that you click I agree to, you have to make sure that the terms are there. But then one element is also accessibility. So it goes through an intensive accessibility check with our IT accessibility team, and then you get a result of questions. So there are some errors, and I will put it in the Discord. I'll strip out Penn State specific information, but there is like, hey, this is what's wrong with the tool. That could be an accessibility issue. And then how are you going to make sure that all students have equal access? So it's called the EEAP form, like equal access for participants. And so if you have to say, what are you going to do? And so it's different where if it's a group project that they could contribute in other ways, maybe writing the material, maybe taking the pictures. But if it is one student, we have alternative scenarios that the faculty member would work with the student to get that same experience. Great question. And so again, I'll post that document with some of the examples in Discord afterwards. And then the other one is, how do you post a Post-it note and read it once it is posted? And so there's a way to zoom in on one particular area. And so you could click on that area and it should enlarge it. When we get to back in the platform, I could demo that part. And so thinking outside of art, of what else can be done, this was actually for in-person and what's called Penn State Wilkes-Barre, which is near Scranton. And so they are traditional age students who meet in person who, yeah, so that's the generic one. And so I have the specific filled out one for spatial. So happy to share that too. And so for this, students worked with resources where entrepreneurs can seek out seed funding, get resources, etc., and did interview videos. And then we had a gallery of those predetermined blocks where you not, in addition to adding images, you could upload video. And so students uploaded their video work, and then students watched each other's videos in the gallery and wrote a reflection piece about their experience. So for this, instead of coming physically to class, they actually went all in together and saw each other's videos, talked to one another, and learned how they could kind of network in these spaces. And then they learned and went to visit again kind of on their own. So sometimes there might have been somebody there, or somebody might not have been there throughout the rest of the week. And then that got them to prepare to come in a third time and to present to the Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber of Commerce to present their videos in this format. And so the chamber has also given some feedback of their experiences, both with this platform and the videos themselves. And so that's nice that we're going to tailor it this upcoming fall moving forward. And so this was a student reflection piece for that of, I liked experiencing, I missed a typo, and interacting with others online and an alternative to Zoom that has similar tools used by businesses for work purposes. By working with the chamber, I could also see how the space could be used for small business to showcase their work. I look forward to exploring this more. And so what's not listed here is that there's some, Wilkes-Barre is actually semi-close to New York City. So you take a highway called Route 80, and it's about an hour and a half away. So there's a lot of people moving towards Pennsylvania and then commuting to New York City once a week, twice a week or more, and then using the tools like this for their hybrid work from home days. And so this is why we also wanted to use this to prepare those students if they were going to look at a big pharmaceutical company or a big financial institution that would be using not this tool because they pay for it and they have branded ones that are secure, but to say, hey, look, I have experience with this element. And then also, I forgot to share that, again, for art, it was in person for more traditional age students, but because of how great this was, it is now expanded to adult learners. And this summer, all art courses that are online for adult learners will also use these spaces as well. And then they have a separate class that's for graduate assistants that are spread throughout the United States, but they come together twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And so they came and created their own spaces and they put VR headsets and were able to explore in virtual reality. And so they use the Quest 2. And yes, so we haven't had students who are blind to use this tool. We had to implement that equally effective alternative access plan. We've had also partially blind students who actually have been able to navigate it, but not fully blind individuals. So this is not for you, but you can if you want to. So for this and watching the videos, what the students had to do as an outcome of it is they had to then do a discussion board of what do you see when you're in this space and describe what you observe. What do you think about it? So during your time in spatial IO, explain what you're thinking. And then what do you wonder? So during your spatial IO experience, what questions came to mind? And so students had to answer these in a discussion board where they had to post first before they could see anyone else's results. So we really like this a lot. It's from Harvard School of Education. They have a project called Project Zero, where they have utilized this more for like art literacy, but we use this a lot for virtual reality experiences to make sure students have gone through the experience and that metacognition of, hey, what did you learn? What did you do about it? And so I think that's even applicable for AI of when going through an assignment to kind of have maybe the latter two of these questions to make sure that they're doing the assignment versus leaning on ChatGPT or something like that. And so we're going to go through the exploration and creation process. But before we go through that and create a space, I want to talk about two more things really quickly. And that is always to make sure that you have an idea aligned to the experience that serves the course goals and objectives or the instructional challenge or enhances the learning experiences. So for art, students kind of interacted just through the learning management system of uploading images to discussion boards or to assignment boxes, drop boxes. And so they didn't really interact with each other and they didn't see each other's artwork other than having it be on the page. So it was really trying to have that feedback and cohesion. They are doing a research study of students' perceptions of connectedness in an online asynchronous course before the use of spatial, which they don't use spatial until like week 5 of the class and then after. So that has anecdotally, students have felt that more connection with each other, that they feel like they've been getting better feedback on assignments if they wouldn't use spatial and much, much more. And then for marketing, that BA 321 course, it was enhancing the learning experience for what they most likely will encounter in the business field and showing that relatability, as well as having that showcase piece for their work. And we're going to add additional videos each semester for each fall semester for that. And so with that, I'm going to go into creating the spatial IO space. I know that we've had a little bit more people come in. So I'm going to post the link again to if they want to just lurk into one of the spaces versus creation. And so again, this is example spaces. So if you clicked on the one that I just posted in the chat, you're going to be taken to one of the examples in art, and you kind of can explore. This is not the one. This is the one that I think I put in. And so when you log into Spatial and you just have your own login information, it does lean towards video games. And so you could see that there's a whole bunch of games. You could connect with friends. It keeps your recent spaces on here. And then a lot of brands are getting into this space. So like Boss, like the headphones, is here, as well as Fashion World. And so the main thing is it's not going to highlight education elements for you. So if you want to search for something, you can, but if you want to, like here, I'll just quickly search before we create. So marketing. And so you could see MSU has a marketing space. There could be other people who are using it elsewhere. So if you search those keywords, here is a company that has a virtual front desk. And so you might be saying, okay, well, how did they do this? If you press create, it comes up with a lot of the free spaces. So if you're going to be using this for a conference, you could have people here and present up front. If you're going to be using it for a gallery, maybe you want something like this. And if you were here earlier, you could see like, hey, we had that auditorium style as that hub to click on the 6 assignments for Art 10. Same thing with, if I like this aisle gallery, it gives you 3 different color palettes. And so you could hover over to see which one that you like. And I always recommend doing the template versus creating from scratch. So it does take a little bit of time. And it always gives a generic like name. And so if you click edit, you could say ELCC conference gathering. You could give it a description and keywords or tags and press save. From here, it automatically, whenever there's a bench, it has the places where you can sit. And so students can sit here next to one another and go up. And then again, if you want to upload artwork, you can. But if you're like, oh, I don't want this, I just want it to be a white wall. If you click on any of these predetermined areas and you click unlock, you could delete it and have it go away. In addition, if you wanted to add something, it's in the upper right-hand corner where you press add content. So you could add different pictures. There is ways to bring in 3D objects through Sketchfab. So you would have to upload it to Sketchfab first and bring it in. And then they have kind of default furniture. So if we wanted to have this bench, you could, it puts it in the air. So you have to be particular about, okay, well, if I'm going to sit in the middle of the air, this isn't going to work. So you have to then click on it very meticulously and make sure that you press edit. So let's see. So if I click and drag it, you could kind of get it a little bit better and bring it down. And so you could see it's kind of difficult to do. Usually it's a little bit easier. And you could even go underneath, so you would lose the bottom of it. So I would stick with the defaults if possible, but you can add objects if you want. The other part for this is the sticky note. And so students were guided to come in here, press add content, and click add note on the lower left-hand side. So this is where you would have to type something first. And then it always puts it wherever you're looking at. So since I was not looking at a wall, it's kind of like in between. So just like before, you could click and hold it. It is relatively smart where it knows like, hey, now it's against a wall. And so you can have that be there. And if you want to ever lock anything into place to say, hey, I don't want it to move, you could press the lock button. If you want something bigger, you could scale it up. And if you want it to be precise for the position, it uses the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis moving forward and back. It also has a rotation if you flip it around that way. So usually with rotation, they think it's moving it this way. That's not the case. And so the other part for this is there are some paid elements such as adding additional toolkits and other things like this, but most typically it's the furniture, the notes, and then this empty frame, which is where that upload art kind of comes from. There's other quirky things that you can do too, but I typically like to stick with the others. So is there any questions about creation? Because I know that we're slowly getting towards the end of the time. Okay. So the last thing is most of these places are set to private, so you could publish it if you wanted to and make it publicly available, but the default that it is private and it's only if you have the link. And so if you press share, you could copy this link and paste it so others can join, or you could embed it on a website if you wanted to, as well as invite by email. The one limitation to this is and this is similar to other ones that are in this arena, is it has a capacity of 50 people. So if a 51st person tries to join, a separate version of this space will be created for that 51st person, and then everyone who adds after that, because it gets the possibility of too loud. You can see that it does take up some bandwidth for these spaces. And if you wanted to collaborate and have students edit, this is where you say anyone with the link can edit. That view mode allows them to upload and add notes. So edit would be if they would add furniture, add more of those frames and things of that nature. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. And so when you're thinking about spatial IO, think about your course modality. We had talked about that this was used for an in-person class where they met online and then they went to visit throughout the week. The other examples was online asynchronous courses where they came as they please, where they could interact with other students in real time, sometimes not. But then another one, which I didn't have permission to share any pictures or their space, so I didn't, but this was used in two IT courses, information technology courses, where students, instead of Zoom, actually met in this space instead. And so they used kind of that gallery view, but they had a way to do the lecture, but then students could then go in separate spaces for any the equivalent of breakout rooms and to talk and to work with one another. So think about your course modality and what will be best. Same with that is if you're going to have a lot of small group, you want to, it's not like Zoom where you could call everyone back. So for those, the last example of IT professionals, he kind of did all the lecture and the group work was at the end of the session. And I know that the examples today were a lot of gallery views or video poster sessions. So think about what would you want, or if you want it to be a mix of images or video, and then how will you take advantage of the free movement around the space as well as giving feedback. As far as student computers, bandwidth is okay in the Pocono region. Sometimes there's still dial-up, and that is a little bit slow, and so in addition to the accessibility aspects is making sure that students have appropriate connection speeds for this technology. And so with that, I'm going to conclude as we have a few minutes left for last call for any questions. And then if not, again, kind of my to-dos is I'll post the slides and thanks for posting the link about the generic EEAP, but I will also do the specific ones of accommodations for students for spatial IO. Great. And so Catherine has a question of how have you used it for poster sessions? Yes, we have. So the nice thing for this is so students would use it in lieu of doing a poster in person that they would present on there. We had to make sure that the default had pictures close together. So we skipped so it would be every third one, just to be on the safe side for that spatial sound of being too close to someone talking and hearing both two different presenters. So again, the template that was there, it said upload art, upload art, upload art. So we would do one, get rid of two, and then do the next one. And maybe it would have been okay, but we were just super cautious. And it was a small enough class to do that. Great. Okay, so if it's okay, maybe we could stop the recording because I know sometimes there's people ask questions if there is no recording.